Marhaba, and welcome to the Matrix Greenpeal, where real people connect.
Hello and welcome back to the Matrix Greenpeal podcast. My name is Hilmarie Hutchison, and today I'm so excited to welcome back a previous guest we had on the show about a year ago. Madhav Dhar is the COO and co-founder of ZaZEN Properties. We are really excited to hear what's been happening in the last year and how things are going. Madhav, welcome and thank you so much for being back on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I can't believe it's already been a year. Time flies.
It sure does. So for those folks who might not have listened to the previous podcast we did with you, could you just give us a bit of background about yourself and how you ended up in the UAE and how you ended up with ZaZEN Properties?
Yeah, sure. I'll give a quick recap, not to bore anyone. I was born in Sharjah in the UAE. My family's been here since the late 70s. At that time, schooling wasn't as great as it is now. So I went abroad to boarding school when I was 7, came back to Dubai when I was about 26 or 27 years old. So spent in my entire growing up, teenage years and early adulthood outside between India, England and Canada. And moved back to Dubai. I started off within advertising and marketing, sort of worked my way up and joined another big real estate company as a marketing director, was there for a little bit, learned the trade, learned how to market to 50 or 60 different countries and at one go, worked my way up in the sense I was leading a team as well with another developer in Dubai, which was more focused within hotel investments. And then I was fortunate enough to find like-minded people who understood my vision of where the real estate industry in Dubai should go and what was missing, what I believe needed to be done in Dubai and in UAE to make Dubai the best place to live. And I think even the government now in the recent 2 or 3 years have sort of put similar concepts, obviously on a much larger scale, into play and into practice. I was lucky enough to be correct. We finished our first project at the end of January. 6 months in, we have almost sold out and on to the next one.
Let me just get this right. You were in marketing. So how did you make that shift into construction?
Advertising is a very small part of marketing. I learned a lot in terms of advertising and events when I started working. I then moved into a larger marketing role. And then within marketing, I started doing sales strategy and sales operations. From that, I started working on opening new cities and new countries for certain developers here globally. Then when I decided to basically co-found and start this business, which is ZaZEN Properties, I learned the construction side of it from scratch. It was all self-teaching and, learning the hard way and being a student for the last 3 years. And obviously, I don't know enough still, and I'm still always learning and asking stupid questions, but that's how you grow. And I'm not ashamed of looking silly as long as I get it right.
Fantastic. That was certainly a big jump to make from the one business into something like construction. So what were some of the biggest surprises or some of the biggest learnings you had during this process?
The biggest thing would be the scale of what you're doing. So when you are running a small marketing campaign, you don't think of all the other aspects. And I'm just talking within real estate. You don't think of all the other aspects that go into creating a good product. Cash flow is king. It's the most important thing because you need the funds to continue building and then marketing and then selling and paying all your staff, etc. Learning how to manage large cash flows was the biggest change. And of course, engineering side of it was also, I wouldn't say it was a challenge. It was just such a great learning experience. You got to learn intricacies of how things are made, how they're built, what is the science behind it or the mechanics behind it. And that for me was obviously, yes, it was a challenge, but I didn't take it as a challenge. I took it as the best learning opportunity out there. And I got to do it hands-on because I was running the business. I could have easily stepped back and had experts do it themselves. But I'm of the mindset that if I don't know about it and if I can't understand it myself, I shouldn't hold anyone else accountable for it. It was a challenging and sometimes frustrating and always rewarding to learn about the engineering side of it and build and create something new. And we've done so many, I wouldn't say mistakes, but I would optimize a lot of things that we've already done in the next project, which has already been in place. So like I said, it's learning and you take it in, you implement something new and you learn again.
So true. The best way to learn is to do. By making those mistakes, you know how to do better the next time around.
Yes.
Let's talk about your properties. You have finished the one that we spoke about last year during your first podcast. Talk to us a bit about that project and also the new project that you're working on.
Sure. So the first project that we delivered at the end of January, the name is ZaZEN 1, ONE. It is located in Jumeirah Village Triangle in Dubai. The building is a green certified building, meaning that from the design all the way through to the construction and execution, we followed sustainable practices, whether that's in the materials that were used, in the way that, waste was disposed of, in the way the irrigation systems or the electrical systems or the AC systems, the efficiency of those were kept at a certain minimum standard, which was considered to be more advantageous to the environment. That first project was successfully delivered in time as promised at the end of January. And that's considering that we had 6 months of COVID lockdown in the middle. Despite all of that, all of the uncertainty that was there, we managed to deliver a great product. At least I believe it's great. I think all the people who bought also say it's great. So great product on time, high quality. And what I love to see, and I'm at the project 4 days a week. I love to see when people come in, the people who've bought, when they use the spaces, how we envisioned it. When new buyers come in and they're surprised that something like this could exist in Dubai, where they're used to sort of shoe boxes, quality that sort of erodes after the first year or two. We're trying to create a new standard of what I like to call sustainable community living within this market and still make it. It's not the cheapest, but it's not expensive for what it is. So make it sort of affordable to the right audience and build on that brand value.
Excellent. Now, you've mentioned this a few times that it's a green certified property and that you've gone for sustainable community living. We hear the word sustainability a lot. It's used often these days. To you, what does that mean, sustainability?
The way I look at sustainability and the way I explain it to my teams or anyone else I talk to is that when it comes to real estate or real estate development, sustainability should be looked at as a value enhancement and not a cost, right? So I look at it as enhancing the value of the property. And by that, I mean, of course, you use the materials, you can get any sort of certification that you want to, but it's also about the experience within the property. What we put up front is that we have, for example, 41,000 square feet of landscaping within our building, which for a mid-rise building, it's only ground plus 7 floors, is unheard of. We do this for a multitude of reasons. Yes, it's great to have green landscaping and it makes, you hear a lot of nice birds and it sounds different to anywhere else in Dubai. That also reduces the number of hard surfaces, which then in turn reduces the heat that's captured within a certain area, which then reduces the amount of AC load required in the building. There are different steps to it. There are different levels of thinking that go into creating something sustainable within real estate. So for me, sustainability goes beyond materials. It goes into the lifestyle and the experience that you want to create in the building itself. We have solar panels on the roof. Now, these solar panels account for about 25% of the annual energy requirement for the building. And that means that I can pass this on to the end user, to the owner, and reduce their service charges because they pay less for the electricity used by the common areas. Right? So this is an advantage that you need to educate people on. When you think of sustainability or when a buyer thinks of sustainability within real estate, the first thing that comes to their mind is, okay, how much more is it going to cost me? Similar to buying organic food, right? You go in and you're like, okay, why is organic food more expensive? That's the same mindset when it comes to real estate. They'll be like, why do I have to pay 200,000 dirhams more? The first thing we need to establish with the general market is that we are doing it in a cost-effective way. That's achieved by obviously we're not in downtown because the cost of land in downtown is too expensive. So for me to add certain layers to it would just drive the price up. And that's not the business I'm in. I would like to create sustainable environments. I would like to create a better way for people to live in Dubai. I mean, that's sort of one big vision is, how can we help people in Dubai live better? That is through sustainability, through the amenities that we offer, through the finishings that we offer, and surprisingly, which people don't consider, through the space that we offer. Because I know of many projects where the largest 2-bedroom apartment is 900 square feet. 2-bedroom apartment. The smallest 1-bedroom apartment is 850 square feet. We are building for people to live. We are not building to sell.
Right. It makes sense. But why is it so important? Why is sustainable properties and sustainable living so important?
Obviously, Dubai and UAE have set their commitment to net zero 2050. That's been in the news a whole bunch. There is the carbon neutral or another sort of set of goals that they've set for 2030, where they want carbon neutral buildings. Real estate or urban areas, cities basically, account for about 40% of global CO2 emissions. For Dubai, and I'm talking micro here, I'm not even talking macro about globally, just for Dubai to step in the right direction towards hitting these goals, they need to start with real estate. Within real estate, if you can use better material, if you can dispose material in a better way, if you can source material locally or regionally rather than importing it from outside, all these things combine to help you reach more achievable, sustainable goals. I don't know how, if we'll be able to reach that big goal in 2050. I don't see how it works right now. But if we can take these small steps and you can go to a developer and say, okay, if you build sustainable, we will give you X, Y, and Z in terms of concessions, in terms of discounts when it comes to procuring material or logistical discounts in terms of import-export duty. There are a lot of things the government can do to support this and encourage developers to do it. That being said, I am a private developer. I do maybe 1 or 2 projects in one go. The big developers, the ones backed by the government, who build and deliver 15, 20,000 units a year, they're the ones who really have to flex their muscles when it comes to this, because their impact is a lot more if they start building with sustainability on their minds than someone like me would do, unfortunately.
I think you make a good point there in that you are a private developer in that sense. So are you seeing a shift to more sustainable practices in the market in general? Are you seeing that change happening?
There are certain developers who are trying their hand at it. The problem is that the cost of land, now, okay, obviously relative to London or New York or wherever else or Paris, the cost of land in Dubai being a major metro city is obviously lower per capita if you compare it to those other big cities. Dubai is sort of segregated into catchment areas, right? You've got Palm, downtown, Marina, which is considered super high-end, like high-end luxury. The cost of land on the Crescent or an apartment tower, the cost of land over there is 100 million dirhams for 100,000 built up plot, which means that it's going to cost me 1,000 dirhams just for the land, 1,000 dirhams per square foot just for the land. Imagine having to build on it, having to add all these other factors to it, and then having to sell it in the market. Even to break even, I would have to sell it at 2,000 dirhams a square foot, which for me doesn't make sense because that becomes really expensive. Now, of course, that's a different market. It's very niche. It's super high end. There are a lot of developments over there selling for over $1,000 a square foot. So perhaps they could do it, but that's a small part of Dubai. We want to cater to the middle class population, the people who've been living in Dubai and now, especially post-pandemic, seeing how well the UAE has managed the pandemic and supported everyone here with the best infrastructure, etc. They now want to make Dubai a base. They want to invest in their own home. They don't want to rent anymore. So I'm catering to the growing middle class population who want to find good quality, eco-friendly, amenity-packed sort of residences. So for me, that market doesn't make sense, but there are a lot of developers it does make sense for. Coming back to other people doing it, yes, there are some people who are trying to do it, but those are on larger developments. So if they launch 500 villas, in a community, they'll try and make more green spaces. They'll make a lazy river in the middle. But does that mean that they're sustainable? No.
So in addition to the cost, you've mentioned the cost of property and cost of land being so high. What would you say are some of the other factors that make it challenging to develop sustainable communities?
There's a very fine line between good design, good amenities, building sustainably, and having a lot of amenities. It's a very hard thing to balance because if we go, for example, for sustainable certification or, for example, LEED certification as an example. Now, when you go in for LEED certification, it looks at the materials you use, the energy consumption in the building. It looks at the facade of the building, the glass that is there. What is the reflective value of the tiles that you use? So it goes into a lot of detail. The more strict it is, the more expensive the material tends to be. Finding that right balance because You can't build something that's sustainable but looks ugly. You can't build something that's sustainable but doesn't have good AC in this country, right? Because no one will buy it. You need to find that right balance. And that is challenging. It is not easy because at the end of the day, you're doing this business for a profit. You're putting in a lot of money. It's a big risk. Every project that turns around can cost 30, 40, $50 million. You're taking a big risk with that money. So you try to mitigate that risk and try to balance design, quality, and sustainability. So I think that is probably the biggest challenge and why developers are afraid to take that step. And that is why I'd mentioned earlier that as the government picks up interest and education within sustainable developments and sustainable construction practices, they need to start offering some sort of subsidies, some sort of discounts. Maybe your DIWA is discounted for the first 5 years. Something minimal. It doesn't have to be, a 50% discount on land value. I'm not saying something outrageous. Some sort of incentive to make people build in a sustainable way. Or the flip side of it is that if you do not meet a certain minimum sustainable standard, then you're fined. They can do it in either way. The only problem really is that the government also has shares in the largest 3 or 4 developers in the country, right? So how do they manage their interests and manage the interest of the goals of the country?
So they're going to have to decide whether it's a carrot or stick that they're going to encourage people. In general, what would you say, or how are you finding the attitude of consumers? How willing are people to invest more money to get into a sustainable real estate?
See, education is increasing. I think that the people with buying power usually, people who want to invest in their own homes or they want to buy a home to earn rental income, usually the majority of them are sort of in their late 30s upwards who've been working and who've got a savings and they have a good salary and then they want to take that next step. The problem is that sort of my generation, right? That generation was not really educated on sustainability. If you've got kids in school now who are 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, they come home and they know about sustainability. They know that we shouldn't be using too much AC. We should be recycling. This is an educational issue. As that generation grows older and comes into their 30s and has the buying power, the need for sustainable and eco-friendly developments will increase. So it's sort of at that phase now where there is education, there are people who know about it, but it's not that majority is not there yet. It'll happen over the next 10, 15 years. I believe it will happen more. And I believe that's why Dubai has set that 2040 urban master plan where they want all small communities to be connected and green and have, a lot of amenities within the community. So I think they're already planning 10 years ahead, which is the most amazing thing about this country. They're way ahead of anyone else always. And the other thing is that for my project in particular, when people come in, right, the first thing they see is not sustainability. The first thing they see is the design, quality, the price, the sizing. Then we say, by the way, do you know that we have solar power? Do you know that that reduces your service charge from 17 dirhams, which is what a typical building of my size and my amenities would cost you? Ours is actually 12 and a half dirhams. You're saving 30% annually in service charges. Oh, and by the way, because we're sustainable, do you know that we're saving 440 metric tons of CO2 emissions annually? Right now, it's an add-on, right? It is not a driving factor. It is an add-on. There will come a time where it becomes a driving factor. And that is when everyone will jump on the bandwagon.
You are ahead of the curve in that you've already gone in this direction. The demand will just keep on growing as the younger generation grows up to expect that this is the way that they need to invest in their future by focusing on sustainability. I'm absolutely loving this discussion on sustainability, and I love your insights and all the different aspects that you've thought about and that you've shared with us. But I know that we don't want the podcast to run too long, so I think I'll stop asking you about your input on sustainability. Before we end up our discussion, can you tell us a little bit more about your properties, or is there something we missed that you would like to share with us that makes ZaZEN properties unique?
I'm always of the belief that don't take my word for it. Please come and experience it for yourself. Nothing beats the look on people's faces when they walk in. And I get updates every day from my sales team that when people walk in and they see what we've built, they are shocked. If you took my building as it is right now, and you put it in Palm or you put it in Marina or you put it in downtown, I could charge double the price to sell that building as is right now. That is the quality and the mindset that we have built it with. The best thing for me to say is go to zazen.ae, go and see it. I mean, we only have, I think, 5 or 6 units left now, but go and see it because it'll give you an idea of what we are building next, which is coming up in Al Furjan near the Gardens metro station. We choose our plots of lands and our development based on which community we believe is a benefit to us, which community has the right infrastructure. We chose, for example, JVT, not JVC, where JVC is like a construction jungle right now, because we like that there are townhouses there. We like that there's a little more openness there. We like that they've got smaller gardens and they've got 2 schools. We moved to Furjan, where we're right near the metro station. We know that there are 2 schools inside. We know that the Ibn Battuta Mall is right next to it. Our locations are strategic. We build with quality in mind, but we build for people to live and use the building and the apartment.
Thank you so much. And we're looking forward to hearing the next time round how this new development is going and what you have planned coming up. Now, we have come to the segment of our show where I'll ask you a few rapid fire questions. And since you're a repeat visitor here, you'll know this was coming. Are you ready?
Well, let's go.
When are you the most productive?
Early morning.
Okay. Who is your inspiration and why?
Well, I don't remember what I said last time. I don't think I have an inspiration. I believe that I take every piece of work, every moment, and I learn all the time. I think, the right answer is my inspiration is always learning.
Perfect. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
What is one thing you do each day, no matter how busy you are?
I put my kids to bed and I make sure I'm the one that wakes them up.
Oh, I love that. So thank you very much for playing along. That was the end of the game show. Now, before we wrap up, I'd like to ask you about your Greenpeal moment. But in this case, we're going to say, what Greenpeal advice would you give to your younger self?
Be patient. I think as most people, when they start their career, they're always impatient of taking that next step. Am I growing? Will I earn more? I was the same. I was always pushing myself to do better, which is a great thing. Don't stop doing that. You need to be patient and understand that if you are putting in not just the base amount of work, you need to work harder than everyone else. If you keep doing that consistently, you will get the benefit or the reward of it going down the line. Remember, I started off my career in advertising, earning, I would say 12,000 dirhams a month when I was 26 or 27 in Dubai. I am 41. I didn't think I would be in this position, but I knew that I would have the opportunity to take advantage if this ever came up. And that's what I work towards always.
Excellent. Very good advice. Thank you for that. And thank you so much for being a guest again. It's been excellent to talk to you. And I really enjoyed the discussion, especially the focus on sustainability. And I'm sure our audience will really enjoy this discussion as well.
I hope so.
Before we say goodbye, could you please tell our listeners where they can find and follow you? I know you already mentioned the website, but maybe just repeat that again.
Yeah, sure. So ZaZEN.ae, that's ZAZEN.ae. And you can check us out on Instagram or Facebook as ZaZEN UAE, all one word. Or you can come by my house and have a conversation with me about it anytime.
That sounds a very good suggestion. Thank you very much. And thank you so much again for joining me today. I wish you all the very best for the new projects that you are working on.
My one request, which I'd like to make to you and the entire Greenpeal team, please come and see the project. Take out 20 minutes of your day and I will take you around the project because we do a lot of interviews and a lot of podcasts and no one believes it until they see it. So if you ever have time, open invitation whenever after the summer, before the summer in October when the weather is better, please come and see it if the opportunity.
That sounds excellent. I'd love to do that.
If you enjoy our conversations, please like and subscribe. See you next Wednesday.